Are you burnt out? Are you mentally burnt out and just have a lot of stress and anxiety in your head and don't know how to get rid of it? Well, you tune into the right podcast, because today on the Faith and Fitness with Firmin series, we're going to talk about burnout, and we're going to talk about mental burnout. And this is the second part of a 3-part series. So stay tuned and welcome to the Rodney O Podcast. I remember going to my first job I've ever had, and I remember just leading up to it, leading up to the first day, just really thinking over and over in my head and playing in my mind how it's going to go. What am I going to do? Are they going to like me? Is the boss going to like me? Am I going to mess up? What's going to happen if they don't like me? Or what's going to happen if I drop something or spill something? And all these things just went through my mind as we led up to the first day of employment. Now, I didn't know what to expect. So a little bit of that was warranted. But for the most part, looking back on it, I kind of realized that the stress and anxiety and the worry that I had was creating a mental burnout to where I haven't even worked yet. And I was mentally exhausted just by trying to think of what should I do, what's going to happen, what am I going to do? And so it really taught me a lesson, because once I started, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I mean, there was mistakes made. There were some things I had to learn. But when I finished the first shift, I was telling myself like, wow, this wasn't so bad. And so I know people out there who have stress and anxiety and worry about a lot of things and kind of gets burnt out mentally because of that, because your mind is so consumed about the future, about something that is going to eventually happen in the future and it's going to eventually come, but you're robbing yourself of the present, of what's going on right now. And so today's podcast, we're going to kind of discuss that. We're going to kind of discuss the whole pitfalls of having a mental burnout as part of our 3-part series on avoiding burnout. And so pretty soon I'll introduce my guest host, my co-host, Charles Firmin. So stay tuned and welcome to the Rodney O Podcast. This is a Faith and Fitness series. So today on the Rodney O Podcast, we're going to continue our Faith and Fitness with Firmin series. And today we are in our second part of our 3-part series on avoiding burnout. And so we're going to talk about the physical, mental, and spiritual burnout. But today we're going to talk about mental. And so we'll get right into this topic. If you missed last week's topic, go ahead and check that out. We talked about the physical burnout, but we're going to talk about the mental burnout today. So let me welcome my co-host, Charles. How you doing?
What's up, Ronnie? Doing great, brother. Glad to be back. Everybody listening, thanks for tuning in. Glad y'all are here.
Good. And so getting into this right away, we're going to talk about mental burnout. And so I want to ask you, Charles, how would you describe mental burnout? What is mental burnout?
So the way I would describe mental burnout, if you look at it, is just overloading the mind with thoughts of stress, anxiety, and just other different things that can make the day-to-day seem just physically daunting and hard to function normally. Stuff that can affect your emotions, just make you not yourself. It can affect your work, your life productivity, just any thoughts or any activities that can lead to mental burnout, such as work, family stressors, physical stressors. I mean, anything in the mind. So it all stems from the mind. It's just all just overloading the mind with, like I said, different thoughts of stress or anxiety that can make you not yourself.
Yeah, and so, I know a lot of people who are just people who just have a lot of worry. They're kind of by nature people who worry a lot. And, I know there also is, some diagnosis of having anxiety and over-anxiety and those things. And I know they may take some work to get over. But just people who, just have just this life of just worry and stress. Talk about how that translates into mentally burning out, because maybe stress in itself isn't going to mentally burn you out, because there are times that we stress out, every day, or a situation occurs that we stress. And I think it has to do with how you handle the stress. But what are your thoughts on that?
I kind of go off that. I kind of agree with you. I think it's the way we handle the stressors. You can either have stress come about you, and you can either focus on it, let it take you down. You can make it way bigger of a situation than it actually is, or you can take control of the situation mentally and physically, and you can just get after it, get as much done as you possibly can, because regardless of what the situation is, how big of a stressor it may seem like, ultimately you're in control of it mentally. You have mental control to tell yourself how stressful something is. So it may seem like the biggest situation in the world. It may seem like the world's about to crash down on you. But if you tell yourself to breathe and that I got this, I can do this, I've come this far in life, I have the ability to overcome this, and if you just take a second and breathe, you can get to that point of overcoming the stressor. It just depends on how you tell yourself to handle it mentally.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. That's a lot of advice that I would receive whenever I was going through stress or talk to people, is just kind of how you're handling it. And that goes into prevention too, because like I mentioned, stress and these things that come up in anxiety and problems are going to happen to you in life. And it's all about how you handle it. So when we're talking about being preventative, trying to prevent reaching this mental burnout, what are some things that we can do to prevent it?
So first things first, if you find yourself in just a mental state of exhaustion, you just feel overwhelmed in the mind, you just feel drained from stressors in your head and everything, the first thing you need to do is just give your mind a rest. Whatever situation you're finding yourself in that's giving you so much stress, making you just feel terrible because your mental capacity has been stretched to its max, the same way you would with muscles. I mean, you got to give them rest. That's the only way you can recover properly. Calm, cool, collected, take a breath, just give the mind a rest. Whatever you're doing, whatever situation you find yourself in, whatever stressors are on your mind, take a rest from them. I mean, take a step outside, read a book, go into meditation for 5 or 10 minutes. Just get yourself out of that state of mind that's causing you stress. I mean, whatever it takes. You could watch a TV show. You could look up a funny video on YouTube. Whatever it is, just get your mind out of that stressor. You need to give your mind a break. Yeah,
and so, for me, normally my mind is really active at night, and usually, at night, because I'm an early riser, so I get tired at a certain time and I'll go to sleep and take my rest. But then, middle of the night, I'll wake up, or towards the morning, I wake up and I will not be able to go back to sleep, because every worry or every problem or every issue that I know is coming that I have to tackle that day, even though I have a good handle on it, will start to just kind of go through my mind. How am I going to handle this problem? How am I going to solve it? What am I going to do? And I had to stop myself because it was preventing me from sleeping. And I had to stop myself and say, wait a minute, you know what? Let me get this, I'm going to be up in 2 hours. Let me get these 2 hours of sleep. And then when I'm up, I can tackle the day and tackle those issues when they happen.
Yeah, that's a huge thing too, because honestly, if it causes you to, it's a vicious hamster wheel. If the stressors are so mentally just overbearing that it causes you to lose sleep, then the next day your mind won't be as properly functioning as it should be. So you're going to be even more likely to succumb to some stressors that are going to be on the next day, which will cause you probably to lose more sleep the next night, which will cause you to feel more mentally stressed the next day. It's just a vicious hamster wheel. It just keeps you going in a circle. So you need to find ways to combat those things, whether it be physical things, whether it be getting a workout in, whether it be opening up your Bible, looking up verses that can directly relate to whatever you're stressing over, whether it be reading a book. I mean, whatever you need to do to just get your mind out of that situation and give you a little peace and a little rest and a little bit of relief from those stressors. Yeah,
and I think, part of one of the things that we can do is just separate ourselves, just kind of taking a break from whatever's causing us this mental stress. Now, how do you separate and not take it with you? So if I'm worried about something or an issue or something that came up and I need to solve it later, how do I just separate myself and get away from that? I mean, I can't outrun my mind.
That is true. You can't outrun your mind, but you can change the way your mind thinks. So if a stressor comes up and you immediately just start freaking out about something, what you need to do is look to the things that you can control. It could be the smallest little thing, but if it's something that lets you feel like you're in control, it'll eventually lead to you feeling more confident, feeling like you have power over the situation. And little by little, you'll start to see yourself being able to say, you know what, I can handle this. I can do this. I can get through this. All it takes is one step at a time, and I will eventually be past this mental block, and I can get things done and not be stressed about whatever it is to come.
Good. Yeah. And now, is it possible to kind of occupy your mind with something else, kind of like replacing the stress that's in your brain and, maybe doing a swap. Is that even possible?
Absolutely. So something I like to refer to that as is actually called the replacement technique. So say you have something that comes up in your mind and you automatically know, okay, this is going to stress me to the max. Or you say you're mentally overwhelmed with something that you've been thinking on for a few days. You need to find something to replace those thoughts. Say you're at work and an email comes through from your boss and it asks you to do all these things before the deadline in 2 days. Something that would normally take you a week to get done, he wants you to do it, or he or she wants you to do it in 2 days. And you immediately start freaking out. What you need to do with that mindset is replace it with something else. So in this case, say you have 2 days to get it done. You want to replace it with, instead of saying, I only have 2 days, say, okay, I have 2 days. Okay, I have the capability to do this, or else she wouldn't have given me this assignment. You need to replace it with things like that. And say you're at home and you just feel a stress come about you. You just want to replace the bad thoughts with good thoughts. Even the smallest little positive thought can flip your switch and make everything else seem less daunting than it was before. You just need to find ways that are specific to you and your situation and replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts.
Yeah, I like that. And so, people who are listening out there, I know there's a lot of people who have this issue with mental burnout. What is like a statement you would say to them that's kind of like a truth statement, kind of like a statement to really hit them, that if they didn't hear anything else or remember anything else, this statement is something they should really take with them?
So in this situation with mental burnout, we got to keep it real. Mental burnout and mental stressors are inevitable. They will happen in life no matter how positive, happy, or good things may seem. They are going to happen at one point or another. Mental stressors will enter your mind. You will feel mentally burnt out at one point or another. But, big but, ultimately, we control what enters our minds, and we have the ability to flip those thoughts from bad or negative to good and positive thoughts. So regardless of how dreadful the situation may seem, you control it. You control what enters your mind. You control your thoughts, and your thoughts will lead to actions, and your actions will lead to how you handle the situations.
And I agree, and I was telling somebody that today about having the choice. They can choose either to be, just kind of sad and down and miserable, or they can choose that they can be happy, and they can choose look at some positives and kind of flip the switch at what's in their brain. And so I think it's so true what you say about being able to control what enters our minds. And believe it or not, I did not believe that at one time in my life. I just felt that, no, things are happening to you. You're going to respond and feel that way. And yes, that's true. But ultimately, you can sit there and say, you know what? Why am I wasting the present time now that I can't get back? I can't get this time back. Why am I wasting my time just being miserable? Why don't I choose to use my time right now? Because whatever happened already happened, right? Or whatever is going to happen or whatever situation is, I'm just control what I can control, but the rest I cannot control. So I'm going to choose to not be burnt out on this, not to stress about this. And I'm going to choose to have a better outlook on what's going on in my life.
Exactly, man. I really want to emphasize what you said about what happened in the past, you can't change. What happens in the future, you can only control what you can control. And that's the only two ways about it.
Yeah. So let's leave people with some steps. Let's leave with some instructions on and some action steps for people to take so that they can avoid this mental breakout. What's step number one?
So 3 actions I want to leave y'all peeps with who are listening is, number 1, like we said earlier, take a break. You need a mental break from any stressors happening in life. If you feel like it's something that's bringing you down, causing you to not be yourself, just emotionally, and your productivity is slacking, take a break from whatever is causing that. Get out of that situation, take a breath or two, walk around a little bit, find some ways to mentally escape from that situation and keep moving forward once you get back into it.
All right.
The next step, number 2, practice the replacement technique. Like I said, if you get in a state of a mental, just feeling mentally overwhelmed, if you get in that state, you need to practice replacing thoughts of stress with happy ones that make you feel confident and powerful in your situation, making you feel like you have control over whatever's going on. So practice the replacement technique. And for the final one, number 3, like we've been saying throughout this whole podcast, but I think it's one of the most important things to take away. Control what you, emphasis on you, can control. Don't focus on what other people are telling you. Don't focus on what their responsibilities are. Focus on you, your role in the situation, and what you can do to control it and be as productive as possible.
All right. So, I really hope that helps. And it's always a good thing, when I get Charles on here and we can go through this stuff, the faith and fitness. And I'm telling you, we're giving a lot of good information out there for you guys to really improve your minds and improve your muscles, the faith and the fitness connection. And you don't want to miss our next podcast, part 3 of the series, which should be out hopefully in a week or so. Avoiding the spiritual burnout. So you want to tune in for that. You want to go back and check the rest of the series that you may have missed if you haven't heard anything. But Charles, it's always a pleasure.
Rodney, man, I love doing these podcasts. I love the information we're able to put out there for all these listeners. I appreciate you having me on again. And like I say every time, y'all, if y'all need prayer for anything at all, please feel free to reach out to me or Rodney. We'd love to pray for you about anything you have going on in life. Keep it mentally, physically, and emotionally strong, y'all. And we'll talk to y'all next time, baby. BTY.
Okay, as always, it's always a good thing to do these with my co-host Charles, and I'm appreciative of him. If you want to contact him, his information is in the podcast description. Just go ahead and take a look and contact him that way. My contact information is in there as well. So anyway, another one down. Make sure you tune in to the whole series and tune into my other series that are on the Rodney O Podcast channel. But feel free to dialogue with me. And my YouTube channel, Rodney O, shows that I am living what I speak. Please be sure to subscribe to that channel. The link is in the podcast description, or you can simply go to YouTube and search Rodney O. And so remember this, I want to inspire, encourage, and motivate all of you guys as you navigate this journey that we call life. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next one.